Today is finally the day. After waiting years since this incredible album was released, we finally get a brand new full-length album from Spiritbox. This is Tsunami Sea. Hello everybody and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on the channel, and I am so excited to do this video today. I am a little bummed because I had actually two people lined up to do this reaction with me. However, Chris Parker canceled at the last minute. He had to, unfortunately, because he is getting a little crunched for time working on his current video game project that he's working on, the sound design for. And next week, I believe he just was let me know today, next week is GDC, and we've been trying to plan to do Metallica originally this weekend, to do this last Metallica video that we have to do, disc 2 of Garage Inc., before I go into the hospital. However, once I realized that this album, Tsunami Sea, was being released this weekend, it actually snuck up on me. I try to plan for things like this a little better, but because I'm doing a ton of preparation before I go into the hospital here in a couple of weeks, I let it sneak up on me. And so that's all my fault for trying to schedule things, on shorter notice than I should do. So, unfortunately, it's me here by myself. I could have waited a couple of weeks and done this reaction maybe with Chris, but we'll have to, I don't want to wait. I don't have a lot of time over the next couple of weeks to do some editing, so I'm just going to sit here and react to this album myself. So it's a big bummer. Chris Schoenberg was also going to join us because we were going to do Metallica originally, like I said, but then I switched it to Spiritbox, and he just said that he went and looked up Spiritbox and listened to some singles from this album, which to me kind of ruins the point of doing a reaction. And all he had to say was that he didn't think it was metal, and basically that he didn't know if he really wanted to do it. And I don't know if I didn't really feel like sitting here sort of like having him be snarky at me the entire time that Spiritbox isn't a metal band and that I shouldn't enjoy them because they are trying to be heavy but have clean vocals or whatever. I need to let Chris be here to explain his position on things, and I don't want to speak for him, but I can kind of imagine the way that video would go, and it may have been super entertaining, it may have been fun, but unfortunately, it is what it is, and I'm here by myself. So sorry to everybody that was looking forward to this reaction with Chris, and I strongly imagine we'll be talking about this album in our top 12 albums of the year lists at the end of the year, if Chris Parker ever actually gets around to listening to the album, because he does have a hard time doing that sometimes when he misses the release for things. But he will, I'm sure, and we'll hopefully all enjoy this album. Also, I have to say, I am using different equipment to record this video. Normally, I use this microphone right here. Can I get it in the shot? There it is. I use this mic, my Groove Tube, to record everything. However, I'm not going to be able to take that microphone with me when I go into the hospital, and so I want to try to get comfortable using this microphone and how it sounds to me. I do have a slightly better quality USB microphone than this one. However, it doesn't have headphone output on it, so I cannot monitor myself back, and I like to at least hear myself even if it's not the greatest sound in the world. Now, the output of this microphone is not the greatest, and I want to listen to this album in as high a quality as possible, so I may plug into my direct output of my computer itself, which I have a little Lenovo box over here that's really awesome, and it's just this little box like this big, and it's a whole computer inside of there, which is really nice. Chris Parker actually sent me this last year when I was having some troubles finding equipment that would work, and it's been working super great. But hold on, I just realized I have this up and I don't necessarily need that up. So anyway, sorry, this is a bit of a rambling beginning here. I didn't want to do that too much at the beginning, but I've got different equipment, so please bear with me. Hopefully I sound pretty good. I was editing a video earlier today, and I was using this same microphone on, and it sounded okay to me. So hopefully it's passable enough for everybody, and it doesn't sound too bad. I have to try to remind myself not to touch the table too much, because this microphone, this microphone not sitting on the table and not suspended in the air like this one, you can tell when I touch anything or set anything down, even if I set it down very gently. So with my glass, I'm going to have to be extra careful. Speaking of my glass, we're going to drink some Mountain Dew Code Red in this video. I'm going to enjoy this one because I cannot drink a soda tomorrow because I have a PET scan on Tuesday. And so the day before you have that, in my particular case, with what they're looking for, they don't want me to have anything sugary, and I can't eat or drink anything within 12 hours of having the scan, which isn't a big deal. It's at like 11 o'clock, I think, on Tuesday morning, which means I won't eat anything before 11 p.m. the night before, but that's not a big deal. And nothing overly sugary tomorrow, so I'm going to really enjoy this today. As of my recording this, today is March 9th, I believe. Yes, March 9th. It is right around 5 o'clock. Like I said, we were originally scheduled to record this video with multiple people at around 7:30, but things have changed. So if I can get this video recorded, and then I can actually work on editing it later tonight. So that would be really great. Let's see what else. So let's talk about Spiritbox here. I am a big fan of this album. I'm a big fan of Spiritbox in general. I'm a big fan of Poppy, the lead vocalist for Spiritbox. But, okay, obviously that's a joke, and I'm sorry. Courtney was really awesome. I think it was at I don't know if it was the Grammys exactly, but some award ceremony a few weeks ago, a reporter was interviewing her and referred to her as Poppy, and she just very graciously said, I think Spiritbox has a good chance of winning in that category too. And I think that's really awesome. I am a huge fan of Poppy, though, no joke. Her album was in my top 3 last year, and it was Chris's number 1 of the album of last year. And so I'm kind of, I guess, consciously going to pit that album, which I think is maybe a perfect album. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to put that album up against this Tsunami Sea by Spiritbox and see how it does. I'll treat them completely differently, of course, and it's obviously not about the comparison exactly, but I am curious to see what happens. I do not think that this album is a perfect album. I think that the mixing was not the greatest mixed metal album I've ever heard. There was lacking a little bit of the high crispy frequencies, and there was a bit of a build-up in the mid-range frequencies. However, I do like the way that it sounds, and it did have a bit of a 90s feel almost to it during certain parts. And with the way it was mixed in, also the way some of the songs were written and were kind of being presented, which I thought was very nice. And I think it sort of speaks to what the people in the band were kind of influenced by when they were in their teen years and everything, and just music that they enjoy and are influenced by in general, regardless of what time that came out. So I'm excited for this. I have intentionally not heard any of the singles released for this album. I have heard not a single second of any one of the songs off of this album. So I am very much looking forward to... So anyway, I just got a message from my sister. She'll probably respond shortly. But I wanted to say that I have not heard a second of this album. I've not heard any of it. I've not heard any of the singles. I have not heard anything. And so I'm very much looking forward to this. However, Courtney posted recently on the internet, and I saw her comments. I think it was from metalsucks.com, which is a great website. Possibly even Loudwire or something else. I saw it multiple times. But it was her comment about how she doesn't necessarily like the crystal... I forget what she said. I'm actually going to look up the article and see what it says right now. So give me a second to read that article, and then I'll be back with you because I want to be somewhat informed. So I've been combing through some of the articles here about trying to find exactly what Courtney said. And I think I found the original article here. It's at least this article that was referenced in another article that I found. So this is the article from rocksound.tv. And it's basically all about, it's a full article about, and I think there's maybe a video version of this as well. I'm not too sure, but it's basically from, like I said, rocksound.tv, and it's covering the entire album, Tsunami Sea, which I have not read this. I've just been I've scrolled through it, and I went down to the part of this article that's labeled as the sound. And in that, it talks about how they had a good time with their EP that they released last year. I think it was last year, or was it the year before? I think it might have been the year before. Last year was a blur for me because of my leukemia and everything and being in the hospital and everything. It's kind of hard for me to figure out when stuff was released. But they released an EP that we did a reaction to here on the channel. The Fear of Fear. Yes, 2023. Okay, so we did a reaction to that. It's here on the channel if you want to go check that out. I will try to link it, remember to link it in the description of this video. But we did a reaction to that, and I think if I remember, there's 5 songs on it maybe, and of those 5 songs, there were 3 songs that were fantastic and that sounded just amazing and that were well written and were what you kind of expect. And then there were 2 songs that Chris Parker did that reaction with me. We both kind of felt were very mediocre and definitely didn't feel like there was as much effort put into those 2 songs. I think it was 2. I apologize, I don't remember that video exactly, but they talk in this article here of what I just read a little bit of, that they felt very relieved with that because they gave someone else those songs to mix. So I don't know if this is the same person that edited Tsunami Sea, is the same person that mixed that, but I really enjoyed the way that album was mixed, and I liked the way everything sounded. And so I was trying to read this article and find what Courtney actually said. But basically, the article talks a little bit about, and this isn't necessarily from her. Her actual quote is, this is from Courtney, "I think a lot of people are fed up with the perfect crystal production that is found in metalcore music right now." Courtney nods. "We love big, pristine production, but the physical human performance in these provided by us isn't super edited and quantized this time around." So that gives me a sigh of relief. Like, whew. So they're not actually talking about the perfect crystal production. You know, that it kind of depends on what that means and what she means by that. But it seems like what it means by, from Courtney in the exact quote here, to me, I take that to mean not about the production itself, but more the editing of the album, and that everything isn't played to perfection and quantized and fixed after the fact. Everything isn't edited to be perfectly to a grid. Every note might not necessarily be pitch shifted to be correct, because there's pitch shifting on a lot of things other than just vocals, if you weren't aware. So everything might not be super pitch shifted. You know, everything might not have tons of fixes on it to help make it sound as perfect as possible. However, I don't take that to mean that she didn't want the album, or they didn't want the album to still sound as good as it could. And so I think some of these articles that I've been reading are maybe not necessarily interpreting that the way that I think that should be interpreted. So we'll have to see what happens. Now, what do I think about this exactly? So this is my opinion on this. And I was excited to have this conversation with both Chris's here with me, and we'll discuss this in a future video, but I do kind of think that the metal genre as a whole, now they were specifically, I think, talking about metalcore, at least that's what they mentioned in this article here, but I think metal as a whole, and I've been discussing this in our recent What is Metal series here on the channel, where we kind of discussed that, and I'm talking to my cousin Cody, who's not been a big fan of metal. We have a big, long conversation about, you know, metal, and sort of introducing him to the genre as a person that he's not been interested in metal basically his entire life. And so we've been using him as this sort of catalyst to have these big discussions about metal music in general, and those videos are very fun. We did What is Metal, a Conversation Part 1. We have much more planned where we're going to go through different genres of metal with him. And then we also talked about it a lot in our ongoing series of videos where we're listening to not the entire discography, but going through little sections and pieces of the discography from my favorite metal band of all time, Raunchy, who have a brand new album coming out later this year. So we have 4 videos on Raunchy that are going to be on the channel. And I think this video will be out before parts 3 and 4 come out. But that's sort of a vehicle for us to talk about metal with Cody. And we've been talking about things like this during those videos. And I do think that metal has become so easy to make sound good. Let me preface this by that. I think that it's much easier now to make good sounding metal than has ever been in the past, and I think it might be a little bit too easy to make good sounding metal. Now, I'm not saying make good metal, right? Because there's something different there. You can have a terribly written, very poorly performed metal song that still sounds really great, you know, and then it's up to each person's individual preferences. I think most people would say they'd rather listen to a well-written, poorly recorded, poorly produced song rather than a really well-produced song that was poorly written. However, for me personally, and I know I'm kind of on the different side of this spectrum, but I definitely care more about the production than I do the songwriting in certain ways. But I'm not going to get too deep into that because this is just a Spiritbox video, and I want to get to the music here in a second. But I do think it's an interesting conversation to have, and I personally am excited to hear what this album sounds like. And I was a little worried based on that quote, but now that I've read her exact quote, I think she was talking more about the editing and less about, and editing is included in production. Mixing and editing are both part of production. So she is not wrong in any way. I'm just saying I think what she's talking about with her specific second sentence there is that the music is not edited to be perfect. So it's the editing she was more focusing on and less about the mixing part of it, which is a little bit relieving to me. I was afraid that if this album sounds bad, no matter how great the songs are, I'm not going to be able to enjoy it as much as I want to. So that's enough about that. Like I said, if that is an interesting part of a conversation to have that you enjoy, we are going to talk about that coming up in some videos here on the channel when we get around to doing them. I don't know when that's going to be, and I unfortunately can't tell you because our schedule's been so thrown off. If this is your first video here on the channel, what I'm talking about is I'm going into the hospital on March 28th. I'll be admitted to the hospital for 30 days to have a bone marrow transplant. And because I live so far from the city where this is going to be happening at, I have to move to the city. After those initial 30 days, I have to stay in the city for another 70 days. And so it will be around a total of 100 days before I'm allowed to come back home. So I'm taking my gear with me, and I'm hoping I can record things during that time. However, I don't know what it's going to be like, and that's why I'm testing this equipment and everything, and I don't know what we're going to do, but I want to try to record some more What is Metal videos where we go through the genres of different music with my cousin Cody, and I've been going through and editing songs to fit into that, so hopefully we can do some of that. So we will talk about this in a future video, but I can't tell you what it is. So, okay, sorry for the long intro. Let's get into Spiritbox. So as I've already mentioned, I do enjoy Courtney quite a bit as a vocalist. I am very familiar with both harsh and clean vocals from female singers in metal bands. I do have to say, though, that one of my favorite videos online and one of my favorite metal videos of all time, and one that I will definitely be showing Cody in this series of What is Metal videos that we're doing, is her singing Rule of Nines. I think it's a perfect video to show someone because you're seeing a person in real time. You're hearing them do a great singing vocal performance that then at the end of the song, the climax of the song, has the harsh vocals. And for someone that's not accustomed to that, it can be very jarring to especially see a female vocalist doing that. And I think the way that Courtney did it is just absolutely perfect. And my favorite thing in the entire earth is when she's done and she does this. I did it, right? That is so awesome. Chris and I joke about it here on the channel all the time. Whenever we do anything, we are always like, I did it, you know? And I think it's great. So I just wanted to shout that out and say that I think that's, to me, one of my favorite videos online. And it's the thing that sort of got me. It took Spiritbox from an interesting band to me to like a band that I do truly, really love. And then, of course, listening to what is that album called? Eternal Blue. I always forget the name of that. Which also I have to say too, Eternal Blue has some of the best CD packaging of any CD I bought in the last like 10 years. Most bands do not care about packaging of their album, and especially they don't put a bunch of effort into the CD packaging anymore. However, that album the CD is awesome. If I could give out awards on the channel, that would be best packaged CD or best CD packaging and artwork for the last several years for sure. It absolutely is amazing, and I love the care and effort that they put into it, and you can really tell. And so I don't have a physical copy yet of Tsunami Sea, but unless this album's terrible, I will be getting one, and I can't wait to see what the physical copy looks like. I hope they put as much effort into it as they did on their last big album. So, okay, so that's the last thing I want to talk about, I promise. I'm bringing up the album here. The first track is Fata Morgana with 500,000 plays. I will say the album's 43 minutes long, 11 songs. There's a couple of shorter ones on here, but there were some shorter songs on their first album or their last album as well. Don't think it was their first. I think it was their first full-length major like label release or major release, but I know they did do music before that, so don't don't at me there. But they've got, it looks like 3 songs that were singles so far. Track 3, Perfect Soul. Track 6, or track 5, Soft Spine. And then track 8, No Loss, No Love. And that is one of the shorter ones, so I would imagine that might be one of the heavier ones, but I don't know. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, I am going to listen all the way through from front to back. I probably will not be pausing unless I absolutely have to, or I'm so overwhelmed that I need to. In which case, I'm going to count down from 3, 2, 1, hit play, and we'll listen to the entire thing. If this, I cannot use, this is, Spiritbox is a pretty big band. If I cannot use the music from this album in this video, so you cannot hear along with me, know that I tried as hard as I could to make that the case, but some artists just do not have their music set like that, their parameters set like that on YouTube. So I will try as hard as I can to include the actual audio that I'm hearing in this video so you can hear exactly what I'm hearing along with me. If not, that's why I will do the countdown, 3, 2, 1, hit start, so you can maybe, if you want to go to the extra effort, load up your own version of the album to listen with me. If not, and you're already familiar with the album, you can skip to your favorite song to see my reaction to that. You know, just know I'm trying as hard as I can to make it as easy for you guys to hear the music as I'm hearing it as well. So with that being said, now, I promise for the 1,000th time, we are going to listen to Fata Morgana from Tsunami Sea by Spiritbox 2025. It is March 10th. In 3, 2, 1. Interesting. Very massive sounding. Love the kick in the snare. Spread very wide. Love that dark tone underneath it. Yo. Yeah. Oh. 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 The vocals are way too low here. I can barely hear what they're doing at all. That piano thing, that clinky thing off to the left is nice. Her harsh vocals are 3, 4 dB louder than her clean vocals were there. Her harsh vocals here are sitting nicely in the mix, right? And it makes sense from a mix perspective that you would have louder harsh vocals, or harsh vocals a little louder. However, I feel like the music engulfed the clean vocals and you could not hear them at all. So that is a pretty negative thing to me. Nice. I expect variety in the music, and I expect very dynamic parts, you know, from the craziness we just heard to this, which is very nice. I actually really enjoyed the softer, more electronic songs on Eternal Blue a lot. And I wasn't disappointed that the album wasn't as heavy as I thought it was going to be. I was very happy with that side of them. Sounds like one track of her doing vocals, no overdubs so far, for the clean part. She's also singing kind of a mid-range, so it's hard for her to kind of, and she's not singing very intensely there. Oh, they just have a way about them, don't they? Those downbeats. I gotta be careful I don't hit this microphone. Okay, I don't know what this song's gonna do. I'm gonna switch my headphones out and plug in to this over here. Okay, I want to see if this sounds different. I can no longer hear myself through the microphone, but I want to see if the quality of the audio. We're still recording. We should be good. Hopefully that didn't cut anything off. Okay, track 2. This is Black Rainbow, 324. Let's go. I'm going to move the mic off to the side a little here. Oh, yeah. Yep. That kick drum's doing a lot of work. Oh. I cannot hear what's being said at all. Now it's very vocoder heavy, very affected like a robot. We'll see what happens when the vocals get a little cleaner. That kick drum's doing a lot of work. One of the things I loved about Eternal Blue was just the sort of atmosphere they had going the entire time. And you really hear that there's something going all the time behind the music, underneath the music, underneath the metal. The vocals are basically non-existent. I can tell what they're doing. Kick drum might actually be a little too much. I like when they overdub the vocals there. You can hear her second or third tracks on the sides, panned wide, very nice. Wow. So that song had no chorus really, I guess, kind of. So this is Perfect Soul, one of the big singles. That song felt very short. All right, we'll see if the vocals are a little louder here during the quiet, or the clean parts, if there's any. Way louder. See, she's singing with a lower register, and she's singing softly. That's way harder to get into the mix. Sounds really good, though. Yep. Interesting they started the album with two such heavy songs. As a male backing vocal there, that was really nice. But it was easier to hear him almost. I mean, he was spread wide, you know, and everything. Very interesting. I feel like if I was listening to this anywhere other than sitting with headphones, it would be hard to hear the vocals, the clean vocals. There are high frequencies there. That hi-hat in there, doing a lot of work. And then all the like synth stuff, synth pads. Okay, I mean, this sounds fantastic right now. Very interesting. That her vocals were loud enough, I would say, in that one. The chorus sounded a little chaotic almost. It was interesting, hard to explain. All right, this is Keep Sweet. Ooh, that cymbal way off to the right. I've been paying attention to the cymbals too much. Oh. Yes. Oh, that sounds great. Love the electronic beat. Oh, yeah. Oh. Everything does sound pretty raw, which is nice. I'm sure the drums are still replaced, but doesn't mean that's not bad. Oh. Oh! Yeah! Yeah. It's really interesting to have so much more intense, like much more projection, more character to, not character's a bad word. Oh. Ooh. Interesting. Some like interesting high frequency stuff added there. Maybe a second take with just high frequencies. It's interesting to have the background vocals be more intense and like almost lead vocal sounding than the lead vocal. But she has such a unique and cool voice. You know, so her voice is still the lead voice, but it's just really interesting. It's working. It's working. And they had this, their first album sounded like this too. Not first, this Eternal Blue sounded like this too. So yeah, I can't really say if I think this is better or worse. Mix wise. So that song, did that have a big chorus a third time? I don't know. I was talking, so I probably talked over it like an idiot. All right, this is Soft Spine. This is the one with the most plays. Almost 10 million plays. Yeah, 10 million plays. 9,890,000 as of this video. Okay. Oh. Wow, that groove, man. Ah. Oh. Oh. Wow. Oh, yeah. Oh, the groove. All right, what are we going to do for a bridge here? And then they do the chorus one more time. They haven't been doing that as much. And that kick is so massive. Oh. There's actually a lot less guitars here happening than... It's just massive low frequency. That's weird. Yeah. A little different, though. Okay. Awesome. Clearly the best song on the album so far. Tsunami Sea. Oh, yeah, let's go. See, the guitars are way more present here. That last song was really relying on low frequencies and then those cool, like, pick noises, you know, squealy type pick noise type things they're doing. Pick slide, maybe, I don't know. Okay. This is great volume. Sounds a little bit more like something from Eternal Blue for sure. Not that anything sounds vastly different or anything. Bit different with the mix. It does kind of feel like everything is floating underwater a little bit. Lacks a little bit of that crystal clarity. But I do like the way it's mixed. It's relying very heavily on mids and lows though, not the crystal, not the crispy highs. Man, it's got to be so hard to balance this, you know? It's very heavy, intense music with someone just singing, you know? She's not belting. She's singing softly, and she always does that, and I think that's one of the things that makes her so unique, and I don't want it to seem like I'm saying that in a negative way. It's just such a unique thing to her and to them as a band, and it's very hard to mix something soft with something heavy and intense. And to not make it sound like they can't be together, you know? Not a ton of definition in the guitars. It's mostly, like, the guitars are the afterthought here. That kick is just doing so much. I mean, now that the kick is gone and all the massive lows, doesn't it just feel like you can breathe now all of a sudden? That was a third chorus. Love that. I did like that song. All right, we're going into track 7 already. A Haven with Two Faces. This is the last two songs are the two least played. This is pretty close. We have acoustic guitar though, baby. Acoustic guitar has entered the ring. And that massive thing in the back, which is just Spiritbox all over. Wow. See, in order to get that acoustic guitar, it sounds like acoustic guitar plugged direct in. It sounds pretty terrible, actually. But in order to get that to come through the mix, it is spanky all to heck. Like, it sounds so spanky, twangy, yuck. If you just isolated that track, I bet it would sound terrible. Now, in context with everything, all the low, mid-range stuff, it is cutting through. I can hear it. Her vocals are nice volume. I'm getting some of the same feelings that I was with their first album, and this is kind of their, I guess, more progressive-y side, but I feel like the drum beat is being this, like, overly complex, chaotic, like, time feel to it, and it doesn't need that. It would be nice to be a little bit more straightforward sometimes, but that's also just them, so that's more of a personal taste for me. Oh, interesting. I appreciate the slowness of the song. So there you can actually hear the guitar. They definitely added some distortion to that to get it to cut through. All right, that's half the song. What are we gonna do now? Are they gonna crush us, or are we gonna be gentle for a while? Is this the longest song? Oh yeah, by well, not too much, but yeah. All right, here we go. Wow. Beautiful, gorgeous. Interesting way of layering them, the vocals there. Sounds like there's a lot of takes in there. It's almost shout gang vocally. Getting a little more used to the way that guitar sounds. Without that being in there, the song would feel very, I don't think it would sound as good. So I definitely, it's growing on me. So maybe it was an electric guitar, but that sounds like spanky like an acoustic guitar, but there were layers there. Interesting. Cool. Almost some like rain. Yes, yes. Oh, we're getting a little Birthday Massacre-y there with the transitions between songs. Okay, this is No Loss, No Love. This must be another single. This has 2.5 million. I love this. What are we gonna do? Oh. So much more definition in the guitars. Hey, there is a bass guitar in there that's discernible. I mean, you can hear the bass the whole time, of course. To be clear, though, when I was saying bass earlier, I didn't necessarily mean bass guitar. Awesome. Now notice how all that low crap is gone and it feels so nice and clean right now. This is awesome. A lot more heavy parts on this album, I feel. The last album only had like had several songs with both heavy and clean, had 2 songs with mostly just heavy. Wonder if they felt more pressure after the huge success of Holy Roller. But they wrote that whole album after Holy Roller got so huge. Their last album. I don't even know if those are guitars. Interesting. Oh, yeah. God, it's like a breath of fresh air right now when you're just not being attacked by low frequencies. I mean, this sounds fantastic. It's really interesting. It's making me question... I mean, this is great. Oh. Listen to the nice crispiness in the guitars here. Her vocals multi-tracked. All right, into Crystal Roses. It's really interesting, that song. That made me think about it a little different. This sounds great. It's that subsonic frequency, really. Is it necessary? Here you can hear it really clear, that sub frequency. I mean, this is awesome. This is my favorite thing I've heard so far on the whole album. Some vocoders for the overdubs. Nice. Structured like an electronic song, keeping the low frequencies, but all the highs go away. Got this, the vocals, and now when everything comes back in, it's gonna feel big again. It's still massive now at the lows. Will there be guitars and everything? Nice. Oh, yes. Yes, great. Is that still Courtney? I think so, just crazy vocal effects. Very cool. I like the roboticness of some of that. Hard to understand what's happening. big sidechain compressor on everything with, I think, the kit. But not her vocals, though. Which means that they did that intentional, and it was done well. That wasn't too bad, considering I was afraid when the guitars kicked in. I like all these moments. That song could have been longer. All right, now we got the two least played songs on the album by far. Ride the Wave is what we're on now. This is a almost 5-minute song. Okay. Trying to decide what that sound is. That is that in the guitars? You couldn't tell what the guitars were doing there at all. But maybe they weren't doing much. Maybe it was just holding out the thickness of the chord, right? I like this a lot, by the way. A lot of Birthday Massacre in this one. And if you don't know who the Birthday Massacre is, you're missing out on a really incredible band. I would love to know if Courtney knows who they are and if she's a fan of them. Not that two things can't sound similar without having ever heard each other before. Of course you know. But I'm hearing a lot of that in this, and I really like that because Birthday Massacre is one of my favorite bands. Whoa! I wasn't really expecting the heavy. I don't know if we needed it. This is interesting, though. I like the effect on her vocal there. It's low, but I think it's meant to be more of a... It's not necessarily meant to be a lead vocal part. There we go. Yep. Yes. Third chorus, thank you so much. This is actually maybe my favorite song on the album. great. Love this one. All right, we're going into the last track, Deep End. Are we going to get a huge, epic, massive, heavy track, or are we going to get something the opposite of that? 3, 2, 1 right now. Nice. Some reverse something. Okay. I wonder what this would sound like on, you know, crappy speakers with no low end. Or, God forbid, on some Beats headphones. Just explode your head. Or anything that has the bass boost turned all the way up. This is awesome. Oh! Some movement in the guitars, very nice. Wow. Let's do more of that. This sounds so much better than a lot of the stuff. These last two songs are awesome. Whoa! Wow! Wow! Oh, this just sounds so good. I wish we had more of this. I love Holy Roller. I love stuff like that, but I want more of this. These last two songs. And maybe that, I don't know, it kind of seems like their band kind of, well, I'll bring that up at the end here. But the variety is cool. Yes. A lot of the vocal overdubing is amazing here. I think the male vocals might be back. Double it with her here. And if not, maybe not, but it's really good. It sounds thicker and fuller. Sounds great. All right, now what are we going to do? Are we going to just mess around for 40 seconds here? This sounds great. We are not going to get this plus another chorus, I guarantee that, so kind of a bummer there. I wish the song had an extra minute to it so you could do this, noodle around for a little bit, guitar solo, and then come back to that chorus. You'd have the best song by far on this album. Man, I feel like we were just getting started, you know? I feel like we just hit, this album just hit its stride. Man, I have some thoughts on all this. No. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm going to try to condense this down, not going forever. First thing. It feels to me partly it feels to me like this band is kind of fighting with itself. Okay, so I've got my headphones plugged back in, and I just want to go over a few things. So so like I was saying, I think that this band, in some ways, almost feels like they're fighting themselves a bit. You know, and I love bands that do a variety of things. All of my favorite bands are the type of band that you don't really know what you can expect what you can expect from the next track, from track to track, right? And some of those bands do that within songs, but I don't want it to ever necessarily feel gimmicky. Spiritbox does that. You don't really know what you're going to get from the next track. I feel like with this album, it definitely felt, especially on the first half of the album, maybe even the first, 2/3 of the album, it felt like they were trying to please the people who liked Holy Roller more. Right? It felt like to me like they were trying hard to please the people who want the heavy side of them. That they want that shock value, that shock and awe of seeing this band. And I haven't seen any of the music videos, so I don't know if any of their music videos are as incredible as Holy Roller was, which is I think one of the great music videos ever, maybe ever of all time. But it seems like they were trying to be heavier, maybe than they necessarily want. Now, maybe that's a bad way to put it. It probably is. But, I just feel like those last two songs were so great. They felt more like Eternal Blue than a lot of the other stuff on this album did. They were mixed fantastically. I just think those are probably my two favorite songs. I did like some of the heavier songs as well, but to me, what made Holy Roller so special, and then the other song on this album that was the other heavy one, Silk and the Strings. And then there's other heavy moments throughout here. But on this album, my favorite songs were Holy Roller, of course. Circle with Me was probably my second favorite one. And then I also really liked Constance. I liked, I think Strange World was the one that was the electronic. We Live in a Strange World was the electronic one. I liked that. Silk and the Strings was great. Secret Garden was awesome. Yellow Jacket was cool. That's the one featuring a guest vocalist, I think. Yeah. So, but
hey, what happened?
On this album, there were more songs that were clearly all about the enormous drops and the heavy vocals and the heaviness. And to me, what made Eternal Blue special was how little they did that, right? So when you came to those moments, it was really special. It was like, here we go. And even if, I think on Eternal Blue, there were a lot more songs where it was like sung verse, sung chorus, sung verse, sung chorus, and then bridge or the outro of the song was curdling, death screams, like heavy stuff. That was more impactful than having, 3 or 4 or 5 songs throughout this whole album that were just a majority of the song be this crushing heavy stuff, And so I really think that, to me, that is a bit of a negative for the album. And I do like the heavy parts too. I do think that there was, that one of those songs there where I was saying, this is really making me listen to this a little differently. I think it was the third to last song. Sorry, I know I keep moving the microphone. I'm trying to get used to the way it sounds. But it really felt like when the subsonic frequencies went away, you could just take a breath, because during all that heavy stuff and when the guitars and everything are in there, it just sounds so low frequency, massive. Now, it doesn't sound like it's too much. It doesn't sound overcompressed, really. It doesn't sound distorted. It's actually amazing how nice all of the sub frequencies and the low frequencies are handled. And the fact that the whole thing doesn't sound mushier and muddier than it does is kind of, I'm in awe of that. I think they did that really well. Those first two songs, the clean vocals in that first track were like almost, you could not hear them at all. It was not acceptable volume. Now, in retrospect, they clearly knew how to do that stuff and have it be the clean vocals and have it be loud enough. So once I go back and listen to those again, maybe I won't feel as bad about that. Maybe they were just supposed to be more backgroundy vocal parts, but it seemed to me like they were trying to do a chorus thing, and they just didn't know how to do it with the way the songs were mixed, so heavy featured. And then when she just sings with her sort of soft mid-range voice, you can't just raise the volume of something in a mix and have it sound like it naturally should be there. You can't do that. You always have to match the intensity of the music with the intensity of the vocals. And I don't necessarily mean intensity from a growl perspective or a shrieking, screaming perspective. You can be intense in your performance. And I'm not saying she wasn't, I'm just saying there were a lot of parts where if you took her vocals out and put it in a jazz song or something, it would fit in there nicely. She's singing mid range with her mid range, and she's singing somewhat softly, and so it's got to be hard to mix them live too. But I think that the mixing was done really good here overall. And I mentioned when we were listening there that there were a lot of hard things that were being handled very well in the mix. I do think that overall, I would say this is pretty high fidelity. I think the high frequencies would come and go in the guitars as they needed. And a lot of the times when the songs were heavy, there was like no high frequencies in them at all. They were not relying on the guitars to feel heavy at all. At all. It was just giant, enormous kick drum and giant subsonic frequencies all kind of happening in a pattern to make it feel massive. The guitars definitely added to that with the thickness of them, and they were definitely being used more like a thickening agent rather than a focal point. Which almost makes me think of In This Moment, because for the last like 3 or 4 In This Moment albums, I've thought to myself, why even bother having guitar players in the band? And I don't necessarily say that from a bad perspective. I would want a Maria Brink from In This Moment, the singer from In This Moment. I want a solo album of hers making the same kind of music, but just not having to pretend to be a metal band. I think for their albums at least, and I've seen In This Moment actually live before, but it was quite earlier in their career when they were a bit more of a stereotypical sounding metal band. I don't think that they would lose anything by, if it's from their studio albums point of view, by really not even having guitars in there. I don't think they're adding very much to it. And I think a lot of what they're doing is such cool electronic stuff in the guise of metal, right? And there's some of that happening here too. However, I do feel like there's always the guitars in there. They're just so low passed that you're not hearing any definition in them whatsoever. If they were playing different notes, you really could not tell at all. It was such white noise, and then all the was taken out, so it was just, right? It was just, and you're just using the crunchiness. No, not even the crunchiness. You're just using the thickness of that sound with the bass to kind of make everything feel enormous. And boy, did they make it feel enormous. That was definitely done really well. Vocally, I love what she does because it is so unique to this band. Like I've mentioned now several times, she is not singing loudly. She's singing quietly, and that is so different, and it's so hard to mix that into something. I do love her vocal performance, though. I like her melodies she's coming up with for in the vocals, but I do have to say, overall, I definitely think this is just my first listen. But I do think that Eternal Blue felt like it was a little bit more melodic, and like I could sing along with that album way easier than I could with this one. And maybe that's just because there were less melodic parts and they were focusing more on the heavy parts. Maybe that's what it was. I do think there were a few songs on this album that were a little bit more like if I mentioned it was a little bit more like Eternal Blue, those are generally the songs that I think you could sing along with a little bit more. But it's not like she wrote a ton of like super really catchy stuff it was all catchy and nice, don't get me wrong. I don't think her goal is necessarily to write something that you can just sing along with all the time. I don't think that's necessarily her goal. But there were some really nice moments on Eternal Blue where I thought it did feel kind of that way, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. I like to enjoy what I'm listening to in that regard, at least melodically. And so there were a few moments like that here, but I do think some of the cleaner choruses and stuff did leave me wanting a little bit more in terms of just being a little bit more able to stand out. As I look back on it, there's not a single song, like the only song I remember in terms of the title of the song with the words would be Soft Spine. And that was a really great song. That was clearly their sort of like, their holy roller kind of this album. And I'll definitely need to go check out that music video now. But I don't know. Hopefully kind of some of that stuff makes sense. So the other thing I have to say, and this is totally me, this is a personal thing for me, and sometimes people get mad at me and they're like, just go listen to Taylor Swift or whatever, your pop music, your Imagine Dragons. But I like a song structure where they come back to the chorus at the end. And song structuring is very important to me. And I know people get mad at me when I say this kind of stuff because everyone's like, how can you say you enjoy music and stuff, but then you want everything to be the same structure? Well, it's just kind of the way that it is. But anyway, I really do think that my least favorite structure for a song is verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, outro. I hate that. I think the song needs to go somewhere else and then come back to something. Like, I would rather the songs be verse 1, chorus, some sort of a bridge, verse 2, chorus. That. But I think the song needs to deviate a little bit. But I also understand they have some nice intros for these songs that are not, that's where you get some of the cool vocoder work, where you get some of the interesting things before it gets big. And I like those. And some of those were 30 to 40 seconds, you know? So if you have a song that's 3 minutes and 15 seconds long, the first 30 to 40 seconds of that is the cool intro to the song. The song itself is really only, you know, once it starts, is really only, you know, 2 minutes 45 seconds or so. And you know, I don't know, this is just, we've been talking about this a lot on the channel here recently with the Beatles and everything, and even Dream Theater, some of the longer stuff we've been listening to on the channel. But I like longer songs that take you on a journey within the song itself. I also can enjoy an album that the entirety of the album is its own journey. So I'm not sure what they're trying to do with this or what their overall goal was. It might just be that they think of each song individually and they're trying to make cool parts that can fit in TikTok videos or whatever, little minute-long videos online. I don't think so, though. I think they're trying to make individual songs that do kind of stand out. And I think that they had several songs on this album that were pretty heavy, kind of consistently throughout the song, and those songs all, to me, kind of bleed into each other, and I can't tell the difference between them. Again, I do think Soft Spine was a bit of an exception to that, but that one was definitely more going for groove feel rather than just crushingly heavy, like, you know, breakdown type stuff. And so I do, even though there is a huge variety on this album between the like heaviest and the quietest moments, of course, it's very nice and dynamic in that regard, I do think that the album felt a little samey, which is really interesting since there is such a variety on it. So I don't know, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but structure-wise, I was disappointed on Eternal Blue. That was my biggest complaint with that album too, is I just didn't care for the structuring of a lot of the songs. And the same thing definitely is true here. However, like I said, that is a me problem, not a Spiritbox problem. They are choosing to make their music with these particular song structures, and that's awesome for them. Totally 1,000,000%. I am not suggesting that they should change anything, obviously, to appease me. Who am I? Nobody, you know? I'm just saying, for me personally, you know, if I'm thinking about my top 12 albums of the year list, now having heard this, I don't know if this album's going to make it on there. There's been some good stuff released already this year, and I have a lot of stuff on my calendar that I'm really looking forward to. And some of the albums I've listened to already this year on the channel that have really, really stuck with me are not like this exactly, but they're sort of more like this, but more towards what I want it to be. Like the Defects album, Death X Destiny, has distorted and sung female vocals. It's a lot more electronic, and it's definitely more what Courtney was talking about, everything nice and quantized. But I think that album sounds great. I think it sounds better in some cases than this. It is simpler, so, you know, it's hard to compare those two things. But I do really like that album, and I think it was my number one album right now. And also the Plagues new album, the Plagues album, United States of Hysteria. I think that album sounds fantastic. I definitely think it sounds better, like, quality wise, than this, but this is doing something different. So it's hard to tell whether this will be on my list or not. You know, we're still at the beginning part of the year. I have a lot of year to go, especially for me personally. Being in the hospital and everything is going to be an interesting thing to see what happens. But I'm so happy we finally got to this, and I'm so happy I got to hear it. I'm bummed Chris couldn't be here with me to do this, but it is what it is. So last thing I want to talk about is comparing this album to Poppy. I said I was going to do that. Right now, I can easily say Poppy's album is, in my opinion, way better than this. For me, personally, I do think the songs are maybe better written. Again, this is for me personally. I like the song structuring that Poppy used. I like that the heavy moments for her, I feel, were not as heavy as this. Definitely heavy in a different way. But her heavy moments felt more impactful because they were a little bit more sparse across the album. That's how it feels to me. She also had several songs on her album that were not, and I'm talking about, what's the name of her album? Oh, shoot. I'm not going to remember what it was. Oh, man, it was my third favorite album last year. Sorry. With all the cancer stuff, it's hard for me to recall certain things. Hopefully that will be better when I get back home after the hospital. But I think you know what I'm talking about. Her album from last year. I think that the songs on that album that weren't heavy at all really made the heavier moments stand out. And the same thing is true for this album. However, they kind of put the songs that did that at the front of the album, or at the back of the album, and then the front of the album was heavy songs. If you just restructured this album a little bit, maybe I would like it more, because then having heavy song after heavy song, I feel is significantly less impactful than having like less heavy song with heavy song coming after it. And, you know, I really like this band's like synth stuff and the synth pads in the background of everything. It would be cool to have a track maybe in the middle of the album that was just an instrumental thing that was like a 2-minute long thing. Like, you know, come from a slow song that's basically ending the side A of the album, basically, if you want to think of it like a vinyl record, and then have the second, and then either have it theoretically end with this nice long sort of interlude thing, and then have the next track just be this crushing, brutal thing. I think that could be really great. And it would help that crushing part feel even more crushing. So I don't know. My feelings are mixed on this. Overall, I'm definitely positive. I don't want to seem too negative. I definitely enjoyed this. It was what I expected it to be, but maybe not quite living up to the very high expectations I had for it. But I will say the more I listened to Eternal Blue when that album came out, the more I liked it. And that doesn't necessarily happen with every album we do reactions to here on the channel. Sometimes I allow myself to really feel the album while we're listening to it, which I know some people might have a hard time believing because I talk over the music so much. But that does happen. And then when I listen to the albums on subsequent listens, I like it less and less and less because I'm hearing more of it and I'm not focusing on it as much. And I start to, feel some of the things that aren't necessarily, that I'm not vibing with as much. Whereas some albums, like Eternal Blue, which did I do a reaction to that album? I don't know if I did, because that was in 2021. I believe it said on there, but maybe early 2022. I can't remember if we did a reaction to that. No, just the Fear of Fear EP. And then now this. So, okay. So sorry, that was a bit of a waste of time. Maybe I'll cut that out. Regardless, we'll see if my first impression changes and I enjoy this album more when I listen to it. If I listen to it in the car a couple times and I'm really feeling the heavy stuff, then maybe I will learn to like this album more. But if I listen to it in the car or somewhere and I can't hear some of the clean vocals on the first half of the album, that's just going to rub me the wrong way to the point where I'm like, I don't know about this. So we'll see. I do think it's admirable that they made a heavier album than their last one. I didn't get that feeling from them with their last album that they wanted to do that. And I almost this is just all me projecting my thoughts here. I almost felt like the Holy Roller was kind of like an outside of the box thing for them. And then it got to be popular enough that they felt pressured to do more of that. And then with this album, I feel like they really leaned into that. And so I was not getting that impression from them. I felt like, again, I haven't seen them live. I don't know anything about them. I don't watch interviews really or anything like that. But just the vibe I was getting from their music was that they enjoyed doing this other stuff a little bit, the less heavy stuff more. And so now to have this be more heavy, I'm surprised. So I have to say kudos to them for doing that, maybe taking a bit of a risk. We'll see. I think Courtney's amazing at the screaming vocals, so I really am glad they did that. But I don't know. It's interesting. So hopefully you can kind of get my jumbled thoughts there into some sort of hopefully you understand a little bit of what I'm trying to say. But I don't need to drag this reaction out anymore. Thank you so much for watching very much. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this album and what you thought when you first heard the singles. I'm sure, because I know they've released the singles a while ago, so I'll have to go watch some reactions now, because I haven't watched any reactions to this album. Obviously, I didn't hear any of the songs. So I'll have to go watch some reactions now and see what people thought at the time. I'm guessing people were just gushing over the heavy stuff, but we'll have to see. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for taking the time to check out this channel. If you're someone that's been here, if you've been with me on the Discord, thank you so much. I don't know what's going to be coming out before I go into the hospital. This may be the last video that comes out before I go into the hospital. So if that is the case, thank you. If you've been here supporting the whole time, if you've been on our Discord, thank you so much. Thank you to Spiritbox for making such an awesome album and for being such a different sort of spot in the metal world right now. At least for me personally, I don't listen to a lot of. It said metalcore. I'm not sure if that's exactly what this genre is, but yeah, just yeah. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you all next time.